Don't worry, we are friends.
GM friends, and welcome back to another episode on the FRENS Validator Media Show. In today's episode, I will introduce you much more to Soarchain. We have talked about Soarchain a couple of times on the show already, but today I want to make sure that you understand everything you need to know about Soarchain. There have been a lot of open questions from our previous airdrop video, and today we want to touch base on potential competitors, why blockchain, why decentralization at all. So I hope that this introduction or this overview, better said, of Soarchain gives you a better understanding of what Soarchain will finally become. Because in my view, Soarchain is very, very well settled to become one of the best DePIN projects in all of crypto. And since it's a newcomer in Cosmos, it's very, very interesting for us. And we will also participate in the mainnet as a validator. We supported the project already as a tested validator, and we can't wait to get started on mainnet. So, just to break it down a little bit more for you, what the vision behind Soarchain is, because if you're not from the automotive industry, all of this is a little bit tricky to understand in the beginning. But I think after understanding the vision of Soarchain, you will have a much easier time to understand what they are building. So, for all of the things that are happening in the area of autonomous cars, AI, Tesla is a very good example and one of the pioneers here. In terms of smart cities, so in all of these areas, it's very important that all of these vehicles are connected. And this is where Soarchain wants to position itself. And by 2030, a lot of experts estimate that 95% of all vehicles that are being sold globally are projected to be connected with each other. What does that mean? So essentially, the idea is that every vehicle that is driving around is a node, like a node on a blockchain, that collects data and shares data and information with the rest of the network, similar to what a blockchain works. So imagine a car that drives around and shares information and updates about the road it's driving on. So imagine you are driving with your car, and 20 minutes later, your mom leaves the house and drives the same road as you. So she drives the same road as you. So say you both drive to your grandma's house. And in Soarchain's world, you would provide information to your mom who is like following you. So, for example, there would be information like, hey, be careful, there's like a speed radar, or there is like an accident, so there's a lot of traffic, things like that. So, this is like the kind of communication that Soarchain envisions, so that all of these cars are connected with each other and share valuable information with each other. Obviously, my previous example is very, very simple, but I hope it makes you understand much better what connected cars precisely mean. And obviously, this has a lot of value, right? Because it can prevent hundreds of thousands of injuries and deaths from traffic accidents. So a good example for that is, say you're driving on on a highway, and then there's a super tight curve ahead, and a lot of vehicles experience the same. So they hit the brake very hard when driving through this curve. Then the network would understand, okay, maybe a speed limit of 120 kilometers per hour is too much. Maybe we have to decrease it to 100 or something. And this is the reason why information like this can be very valuable. But there are also other information that are valuable for all kinds of parties, not only for people who build highways or governments or whatever. Also like big data companies like SAP. It's a German data company that helps clients with important information. So those kinds of companies that work together with big players like other big car companies, or just every kind of company that produces stuff. And what, for example, SAP can do nowadays already is they measure what wind it is, and then they will suggest a company, say Volkswagen in Germany, hey, if you fly if you get your tools from New York to Wolfsburg on Tuesday and not on Wednesday, then you have better backwind. And with this backwind, then you can reduce your carbon footprint, which is like extremely valuable for those companies. Why? Because when they reduce their carbon emissions, they profit from carbon credits and things like that. So for the very big players, reducing immense amounts of direct and indirect carbon emissions can be very valuable. And right now we have data, for example, in the aerospace and stuff like this, but everything what happens on the roads are a little bit more untouched because the cars are not talking to each other. All of the airplanes, they also do not talk to each other, but they are in this gigantic network and are tracked by the entire system. So every airplane that's in the air knows which other airplanes are in the air, like from a commercial side of things. Then I want to talk about unlocked business potentials. We will talk about this in a second, but as you can imagine, with all of this information, it will be possible to bring business ideas to the market and profit from that. So this is essentially the vision. And Soarchain just starts with vehicles right now, not only with cars, but also with motorbikes and stuff like that. But in the end, Soarchain aims to become this connectivity layer that connects all kinds of traffic participants, pedestrians, people who use the e-bikes, truck drivers, like really everything. And we covered this in the last video already. So there are like two different devices. There's a Motus Pro device and there's a Motus Mini device. So in order for your car to become a Motus to become a node in the network, the Motus Mini is completely enough. If you are a car enthusiast, the Motus Pro device is something for you because it gives you extra features. But just for the sake of being eligible for the airdrop, of course, and also in order to become a node in the network, so in order that your car becomes a node of the network, the Motus Mini device is completely suitable for you. And I don't know if you know it already, but if you were lucky enough and your Motus device already arrived, this is where you have to plug it in. There's like a plug-in opportunity on the left-hand side, right below your steering wheel. And just to reflect on how this data is being used. So the Motus device, the Motus Pro, the Motus Mini device collects your data. This data gets encrypted with ZK encryption technology. It will be brought on chain to the Soarchain blockchain, and then this data gets commercialized in form of minting Motus tokens. So as mentioned, your data is coming on chain and then you get Motus tokens for it. It's very, very straightforward. And then in the Soarchain ecosystem, so on the Soarchain blockchain, you can do all kinds of things with your Motus tokens. You can sell them, but obviously there are also other opportunities you can do with services we will talk about much deeper in a second. But yeah, so Soarchain is a layer 1. I think that's very clear for most of the Cosmos people watching this already or listening to this already, who joined this episode via the podcast. So Soarchain is a layer 1 that leverages the Cosmos SDK and IBC. So it's a standard Cosmos chain, similar to Osmosis or the DYDX chain from an architectural point of view. And Motus is the native cryptocurrency, as I've mentioned. You drive, you collect data, you bring it on chain, and Motus tokens are being minted. And you can also use those Motus tokens for staking, governance, paying fees, but also paying for services in the ecosystem. More about that later. At mainnet launch, there will be around 60 validators. That's anticipated. And the mainnet launch is expected to take place in the end of Q1 2024, or as always in crypto, since mainnet launches are always a little bit delayed. I wouldn't be surprised if the mainnet launch would take place in the beginning of Q2 2024. So I talked a lot to the team, and we also had Dennis, a CTO, on. We covered Soarchain many times. So this is the reason why I also again do this presentation, but I also told a lot of friends about Soarchain, and there was one feedback that I've always gotten: why is decentralization? I think especially crypto people are very concerned about this, because they say, hey, why do I need decentralization? Why does Soarchain not just build like a big ass data company where which eventually becomes a unicorn or something? The problem lies in the in the automotive industry itself, because there's a huge fragmentation in the market. So you have a lot of suppliers, a lot of car companies like Volkswagen, Ford, you name it. All of these players are in the market. All of those suppliers are in the market. There are startups also in this area. And all of this data that is being generated in what way whatsoever, not by devices like this, but all of the data that powers this industry essentially is very fragmented. So we have like different data silos essentially, and no one wants to share this data with each other. Why? Because what you have to understand is that a lot of car companies also want to collaborate, for example. So sometimes BMW collaborates with Mercedes-Benz because they see some value in a joint venture in order to figure out autonomous driving and stuff like this. But the problem is, if they decided to do so, so if the research teams comes together, they go to the law department of the company, and then they say, hey, we want to share valuable information with Mercedes or with BMW, so vice versa. The law department will say, no way, this is going to happen. You're not sharing this information. So what is missing right now is this unified and neutral protocol that provides interoperability between all systems. So that we have this ecosystem that just shares neutral data of how we drive generally. So not the question, how are Mercedes cars driving, how are Ford cars driving, just cars generally. This is what's the missing piece of the puzzle, and this also hinders innovation a lot, because if you can't access this data, you can't pivot, you can't improve, we can't build better applications. And sometimes in this joint venture game, it happens that one party suddenly becomes an idea of what a product should look like. Then it often happens actually that the vision split, and that one party wants to, for example, autonomous driving completely centralized, wants to centralize AI completely, but the majority of the people around that project want the AI developments to be decentralized. And with an open, completely decentralized governance mechanism, people could just vote on in what direction the project should go. So the whole project does not depend on a single party's vision only anymore. And also, what a lot of people don't know is car companies know that people want to collect their data and use it. So, I mean, this is not a completely new idea that Soarchain is bringing up here. So, the car companies know that people want to unleash the full potential of their cars. I mean, why not? I mean, you paid a couple of $10,000 for your car in the most cases, and now you want to make the most out of it, right? And also, the car companies see that there are so much business opportunities, so they want to provide this, but again, they can't provide this one because of regulation. Because imagine if a car company would tell their fellow regulators in their country, hey, we're going to build this device, and now we can see where John and Susan drive on a Sunday evening. So most regulators would jump on the fence and would say, no way, you're not becoming the NSA here. You're not allowed to build something like this. It's data privacy and so on and so forth. So the companies can't build this. They won't build this. Also, they are very slow in that area. And besides that, then you still have the problem that you just know how the cars of your fellow companies drive, but not what the rest of the traffic looks like. So I think it becomes very, very clear now that we need a decentralized protocol in the automotive industry that is neutral and provides, I don't know, this neutral ground for projects and for car companies to collaborate and to pivot innovation. But now you could argue, and this is like one question that I've received a lot from the past video: why blockchain? Why not just build a DApp on top of Polygon or Solana or whatever? Because there's also a project called Demo, which is on Polygon, and they are just a DApp. There are a couple of reasons, and for the Cosmos Bros in this crowd, it's very obvious because we want to have protocol independency. Like a lot of blockchains and projects want that nowadays. First of all, because you don't rely on one consensus mechanism. So if you need to change something in your consensus algorithm, you don't have to ask the underlying layer 1 for permission. You just do it. And besides, in terms of interoperability, Cosmos is really the hot the hot news in town right now, because with IBC you can get connected to a lot of blockchains, and there are also a lot of enterprises thinking about launching an own blockchain. The Cosmos SDK is a solution that is very obvious. So if you want to be like connected to the rest of the blockchain ecosystem, making sure to have IBC enabled makes a lot of sense. And also, it's being considered that the governance system in Cosmos is a feature, not a bug. I know it's not perfect, but I've talked to the team quite a lot in the past couple of days, and they believe that with Cosmos's governance system, a lot of things can happen. So, for example, what I find super interesting is that let's assume that you build a better Motus device. You can do a governance proposal on chain, say, hey, I have a much better device than the current Motus device. Just plug this in and not the one you have. So this is what I really want to stress here. And then you also don't have an API dependency, because all of these applications built on top of layer 1s, I mean, it's a cool idea, but at the end of the day, you still have this API dependency, because all of the data is coming to one centralized party, which is, for example, Demo in the case of Polygon. So you have this one application, then you have centralized service in the back. Yes, you also get rewarded for it, but you don't have this open, flourishing data availability layer essentially for projects to launch on. And what Soarchain wants to build is an entire ecosystem where people make use of this data. They want to be the backbone of this. And for that, obviously, you need a neutral ground, because otherwise also a lot of car companies wouldn't be keen to collaborate with Soarchain. We will also dive into this in a second. But if it would be centralized, they would say, no way, you're not getting our data. And yeah, the interoperability aspect is very, very crucial for this. And Soarchain really lays the foundation here with a blockchain. The data availability layer is what you have to remember here. So in my view, Soarchain is the data availability layer for the automotive sector. And there was also a very good article written by Luis Nunez from Chorus One. I really recommend you to read it if you're interested in Soarchain. So just also to draw a picture here, imagine if you could leave your car just outside of the car park and let your car drive in, find a parking spot, and then also leave the the car park autonomously and pay for the parking fee because of previously collected data via Motus tokens. So all of this is possible with Soarchain, and this is kind of the vision that Soarchain anticipates. And here, like, once again, a good overview of how you can imagine the Soarchain ecosystem. So you have all of these Motus Mini and Motus Pro users that are all nodes of the gigantic network. And then with the generated Motus tokens, you can pay toll DApps, you can pay insurance DApps, you can also pay for dashcam DApps, car entertainment DApps, car sharing DApps, speed radar DApps. The list goes on. For me, the most interesting aspect, though, is that I've mentioned it a couple of times, data availability. There's also the possibility to launch a DApp or even a rollup on top of Soarchain by a company such as Suzuki, BMW, or whatever. So they say, okay, we're launching our own chain or our own DApp on top of Soarchain. We use the Motus token, but we give our customers who bought our car a different representation. So Motus tokens suddenly become, I don't know, Suzuki miles, Suzuki loyalty points or something, or BMW loyalty points or something. And with those points that the drivers and customers of these companies get for providing data, they can, for example, use it in the loyalty program of their fellow car company. So, for example, if you are like a BMW driver, you just collect a lot of data, in the form of Motus tokens, which are represented as BMW loyalty points. You get push notifications on your phone via the BMW app. Hey, spend your BMW loyalty points to get a 30% discount on your insurance with our partner FRENZ. So just to paint a picture here, how big all of this will become. So as you see, what Soarchain wants to build here is not just drive and earn. It's just the beginning. We will see a thriving ecosystem here that is built on top of Soarchain. And Soarchain is essentially this data availability layer for all of these mobility dApps. And again, this neutral ground is the aspect that you have to keep in mind when you think about Soarchain. And what I found so interesting when I first heard about Soarchain is that they already locked in a lot of partnerships in. So there's Suzuki, there's Ford, there's Freudenberg, which is a big company in Germany from the south. And apparently they are all very, very interested in this technology. So to have this common neutral data availability layer. And there are a lot of things that are about to happen, besides the mainnet launch, of course. So there's a strong partnership with Suzuki ongoing at the beginning of 2025, 2026. I covered this with Dennis, the CTO, in our interview in 2023. So what will happen at the beginning of 2025, 2026 is that some of the newly produced cars from Suzuki will have Motus devices embedded. Not all, but a lot of them. So all of a sudden, there will be a lot of, Soarchain nodes in the streets. And I think this is something that is adorable to see. And then obviously we will see much more automotive companies, I believe, that will build applications on top of Soarchain, such as in-house tracking systems, loyalty programs, as I've mentioned, and much more. And what we also see, I will also link this blog post in the description below, is a supportive innovation, because Soarchain just launched a smart contract platform for developers. So this is also the groundwork for devs who are in mobility but also enjoy crypto to get started. They can build these amazing dApps on top of Soarchain, the ones I've mentioned, car entertainment systems, automated toll systems, etc., etc. And just to remember that, to reflect on all of this. So the core innovation, why Soarchain is different compared to a lot of other dApps that just aggregate your data. This aspect in bringing off-chain data on-chain in a verifiable way is a super, super important innovation for the entire DePIN sector, because it all stands and falls with it. And I think I can do a separate video on this, but the Motus device is essentially fraud-proof, so you can't manipulate it in order to bring fake data on chain. I think this is enough stuff for a separate video. But this neutral connectivity layer for all kinds of traffic participants, this is what Soarchain is essentially building. And besides that, it provides a super user-friendly and builder-friendly environment for devs who want to build next-generation mobility apps. So the two most important things to keep in mind when thinking and talking about Soarchain, that you have this connectivity layer, the data availability layer for the automotive industry. And all of this, what I've mentioned, just lays the groundwork for autonomous cars. And also for smart cities. Because at the end of the day, we need this neutral layer where all of these cars get the information from, and then they just drive around autonomously in a smart city, updating each other about accidents that will be close to zero, hopefully, because of this innovation, things like that. So we are a validator on Soarchain. Currently still on testnet, but very soon the mainnet launch will take place. If you get the airdrop from Soarchain, I hope you know what to do. Please stake with friends. We are one of the earliest validators who ever covered and talked about Soarchain publicly. We are one of the strongest supporters of this project. We really love Soarchain. We can't wait for the project to launch. So if you have some spare Motus left after the airdrop, consider staking with us. And also, if you like this episode, if you enjoy this content that we provide, especially in the DePIN sector, please go ahead, subscribe to this YouTube channel, leave a like. This helps us a lot and is very, very much appreciated. And with that being said, guys, happy weekend, and I hope I see you very soon on FRENS Validator.